Irashaimase! Hello and welcome to Fataris' Kitchen. I'm your host, Chef Fataris. It's time once again for Shoot 'em Up Saturday, and on the menu this week we have Schildmaid MX, an addictive new indie shoot 'em up. What kind of taste will it have? Let's get cooking and find out. From developer Hip Piece Studio, Schildmaid MX released for the PC on the platform Itch Io in early November 2021. The developer has said they have plans to release the title on Steam and the Nintendo Switch, hopefully in Q1 of 2022. Now, full disclosure, I was provided a review code for this title from the developer, so thank you very much for that, but setting that aside, this is a title that I heartily recommend. There's a lot to really like here. This is an awesome horizontal scrolling shoot 'em up with great pixel graphics and pixel effects, an amazing soundtrack, and a really addictive scoring system. So if that sounds like your jam, and hopefully that it is, this is one that I highly encourage you check out. Diving into the main menu, we find ourselves with a few options we can look at. So there is a how to play, which does a wonderful job of explaining the basics of the game itself, but there's also a tutorial you'll play when you first start up the game showing you the mechanics. It actually does a really good job of that. Under the options, one thing to note before we go any further, there is a subcategory for accessibility, and I really do appreciate it when we see that kind of attentiveness and inclusiveness for all gamers provided by the developer, so it's really nice to see that kind of feature. Starting the game, we're taken to this mode selection. Initially, you'll just have the combat training available, but clear that and we get Jaeger mode. Then throughout the course of the game, we can also unlock Krieger mode, and lastly Chimera mode, which at this point I have not unlocked, but definitely working on getting there. We'll be showing the game off in Jaeger mode, as this is kind of the one where it starts off with the friendliest difficulty setting and ramps up. As far as the difficulty itself is concerned, the game has this kind of rank system where you start with a certain difficulty. The difficulty gets harder as you progress, but certain actions like losing lives will lower the difficulty setting. So as far as ship selection is concerned, we have 3 ships that we can choose between, and some of the biggest differences here are their speed and, most importantly, their EX, or basically their special ability. So we've got the Wyvern here, which special ability is this awesome powerful beam cannon. The Hydra, which has this basically a missile swarm attack, and then the Griff, which is all about having a super powerful shield. So I actually like all 3 quite a bit. If I had to go and pick a favorite, probably the Hydra, but let's kind of have a look at all the ships throughout the course of this video. Starting off, Wyvern. So as far as a horizontal scroller, this one's relatively straightforward as far as our weaponry is concerned. So one of the big differences between the ships, as I mentioned, is their speed, with the Wyvern definitely being the fastest. But there's also some cooldown that's involved in all 3 of the ships that does need to be taken into account. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's dive right into the main mechanics of the game. So you might have noticed at the title screen that it had the subtitle Neutral, Shield, Danger. So the main mechanic of the game is this Schildmaid system, where if we hit an enemy bullet that's specifically in the color purple, then it will activate our shield. The shield itself absorbs enemy bullets and uses those bullets to power up our ship. So our shots, our missiles, all of that. And then when the shield energy runs out, we have this period of time where we're in danger. That's when the ship is surrounded in that red orb and all the enemy shots are red. So one thing that we can do that's actually pretty awesome for the whole shield time is destroying enemies will refresh our shield meter, which is the blue meter there at the top of the screen. Also, just something I would like to point out, when it does transition from shield to danger, there's a brief moment where your momentarily invulnerable, so it's not going to go and penalize you right away for if you happen to get like hit by an enemy shot right as it changes. So here against this boss, we can show off the EX skill. And for, as I mentioned, the Wyvern, it's this awesome beam, which does quite a bit of damage. I kind of wanted to show off how it looked from, well, just the particle effects, which is something that I mentioned in the introduction. So I didn't use it to its full effect, but you kind of get the idea. So, bam! We've defeated our first boss, and what's one of the things I kind of want to go and point out is I love the pixel effects that this game has, particularly those particle explosions that you see used throughout the course of the gameplay. It really adds a lot of just awesome, just an awesome feel to all the explosions in the title itself. So real quick before I move on to the next stage, when you complete the stage you have a little, as always, you have a little bit of result screen. And one of the most important things to note here is if you get a stage that with a no miss, or if you go through a loop, a phase with like no misses, then your maximum multiplier increases. And well, in this stage, let's talk a little bit more about scoring. Not just that, but let's also swap ships. So here we find ourselves at the start of the second stage, now piloting the Hydra. So the Hydra has a different kind of shot than the Wyvern's concerned. And another thing to note that is the difference between the three ships is the options that you get as you power up the ship behave differently. So the Wyverns follow, whereas the Hydras are escorts. So basically they're kind of in ring formation around your ship, and the Griff has the options orbiting the ship. So as far as the Hydra is concerned, this is your missile specialist ship. So all the ships do have missiles that will ultimately home in on the enemies, and the number of missiles and their power do increase as you increase the level of your ship, which, as I mentioned earlier, is done through collecting the bullets, or rather collecting energy from bullets when you're in shield mode. One thing to note, shield mode will protect you from lasers, but the lasers will eat through your shield extremely quickly, putting you in a danger mode quite rapidly. So it's something to watch out for. And honestly, in this game, you want to stay in shield mode as long as possible for a couple reasons. So from a high score standpoint, the whole core of that mechanic is the shield mode. When you're in shield mode, that's the only time that your multiplier is increasing. And I mentioned the multiplier at the end of stage 1 increasing from 5 to 6. That's your max multiplier when you're not in shield mode. The interesting thing to note is when you are in shield mode, your multiplier will keep on increasing even above that maximum that you've reached. So the longer you stay in shield mode, the longer you'll be able to keep that multiplier. In addition to that, we also get bonuses at the end of the stage for the longest shield mode time that we had. So there's just all these advantages we have for remaining in that mode. So we find ourselves at the third stage, but I'm going to jump back real quick to the beginning to show off the final 3 ships. And here we find ourselves starting the third mission, this time piloting the Griff, the last of the 3 fighters. This fighter's particular specialty is shields. So the EX attack for this particular ship is a really powerful extended shield. It's not really built around damage so much as it's built around survivability. In addition, you can see the options rotate around the ship here, and I kind of feel the ship's main shot, its main Vulcan, has a really nice spread to it. So this is one that, well, to be honest, I'm kind of torn between liking the Hydra for its missile barrage better, or liking the Griff for both its slower speed as well as just the survivability that it provides. There is no focus movement in the game, so having this slower ship kind of gives that feel. So talking about the last particular element of the scoring that this title has, so as you level up and increase your multiplier, one thing that you're going to come across throughout the course of your gameplay is a point where, well, hopefully, that you hit maximum power with any particular ship. I believe the levels are different for the other ships, but for the Griff, we're just about to hit max level. Once we power up from level 6 to level 7, we'll be at max, and at that point, your shield turns gold, as well as all enemy bullets on screen will be gold as well when you're in that particular mode. This is useful as, like, although we are getting a decent number of points for collecting enemy bullets before we hit that point, especially once you build a bigger multiplier, the points really start adding up when you hit that particular point of the gameplay. Hopefully we should be able to get that on the boss if nothing else. One thing to note, when you start the stages, there's these helpful little hints which you can turn off, but one of the suggestions that the gameplay makes is not constantly firing. Sometimes we want to leave some enemies on screen, especially if they're dumping out a lot of bullets, as we'll be able to collect those and use them to power up, and then once we have powered up, we can also use them to provide for, like, massive score attack. So here we've hit max level. You'll see the enemy bullets have now turned green. Or, not green, gold. There will be occasionally some missiles that the enemy fires, both like dumbfire ones, so ones that will just fire straight forward, as well as ones that will lock onto your ship. The lock-on ones can be tricky to dodge, especially when things get pretty chaotic. So here we find ourselves at the end of a phase, so basically a loop where you have like stage 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, etc. And then we can move on to stage 2. So we got some really nice bonuses this time for no miss, as well as having no miss for the phase equals quite a nice increase to our base multiplier. Moving on with a fun little barrel roll, which is basically just like an effect. We find ourselves at the start of the second level with a higher difficulty rank applied to our ship. And this will also give us the chance to see other new waves of enemies that really, like, some of the enemy patterns, like as you increase in rank and stages, get really awesome. So as this approaching asteroid goes and shows off, another thing I really do like about the game is they do a good job of using color to show well, if something is safe or something is dangerous. So basically, if something is the color red in this game, it's bad. So if objects are surrounded with a red outline, you don't want to hit those objects. If enemy shots or abilities like the lasers are in red, you want to avoid those. It just does a good job of showing what you can and can't interact with. So at this point, you've seen everything that the game has as far as its base mechanics are concerned, and for me, it's a really satisfying gameplay loop. So the whole activating your shield mode, trying to keep that going as long as possible by destroying enemies, but also leaving enemies alive so you can collect bullets to extend that. That gameplay loop is just really satisfying. and having 3 different gameplay modes to explore that in. So Jaeger mode is really nice and satisfying because it does have the lower difficulty setting. You also have the ability to set checkpoints and start the game from any of those checkpoints, so you can continue moving through and beating the game that way. Whereas Krieger sets you at a higher difficulty setting, which is like satisfying for a couple reasons. Having a higher difficulty means more bullets. More bullets means more opportunities to absorb them with your shield. So at that point, you're definitely getting high risk, high reward. And with a higher difficulty, you also have like higher multiplier and ultimately the greater chance for better score, which can unlock the last mode, which, as far as in the description is concerned, the Chimera mode is described as an endless survival gauntlet for hardcore gamers. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, it's definitely something to aim for. So at the end of the day, the minus flavors I feel this game has are actually very, very minor. I really enjoy this title, and once again, it's definitely a hearty recommend from the chef. As far as minus flavors are concerned, I do feel that the screen can get a little bit busy when you start getting into the higher difficulty ranks. But some of that can be mitigated by turning on or off some of the accessibility options. And there are some other options that I did turn off for the purpose of this video, and also because they're not my favorite graphical effects for a mode, those being screen shake and some slowdown effects. Then it would have also been nice, in the accessibility modes would have been a great place to put this, just to have the option to turn on hitbox for your own ships, so you can see exactly when you don't have your shield where exactly your boundary is. Although it's possible that the boundary is just the edge of the ship, and I'm like I have kind of like missed that fact. That would be on me. But as I said, these are very minor minus flavors. As far as the plus flavors are concerned, well, the explosions for one. Really, the pixel graphics and the effects in particular in this game are what drew me to this title initially. I just think they're incredible. I love a good pixely explosion, and this game delivers that in spades. Also, the scoring mode is super addictive, and it's just fun to, especially when you're at that max level, to just see how long you can keep shield chain going and collect all these bullets to get like some incredible scores. And when you're getting like 50, 60, 70,000 like points for like picking up or absorbing individual bullets, that's super satisfying. And then, actually, I just realized I hadn't used the EX ability for this ship at all at that point. As I mentioned, it's just like a more powerful version of your shield that has a decent time frame to it. Anyway, moving on. And like lastly, the game has an incredible soundtrack courtesy of Studio Mudprint. So I definitely feel that those elements factored together with some incredible replayability makes this one just an easy recommend. And if you're not like comfortable with picking it up on the platform Itch Io, then give the developer a little bit of time and support them when it comes out on a different platform. Well, that'll just about wrap it up for this week's episode of Shoot 'em Up Saturday. As always, I want to thank you so much for joining me this week. Once again, a huge thank you to HitP Studio for providing me with the review code for the title. I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and I'll catch you next time.